Maybe it's appropriate that I'm having technical difficulties today because heaven knows the A's have their difficulties as well.
You are Locked On A's, your daily Oakland A's podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, A's fans, and welcome to Locked On A's, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is indeed your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about your Oakland A's in this strange year where we're going to have to say goodbye to the team. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. I've been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now, and this is my sixth full season here at the Locked On Podcast Network, where I have been the regular host of Locked On MLB, and this year I'm doing double duty. I'm doing Locked On MLB and Locked On A's all season long. Follow us at Locked On A's on Twitter or whatever it's called now. Same handle for Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And if you are using any of the social media to post questions and criticize me or do whatever, make sure you use the hashtag EverydayA's. It helps us know who's listening to us every single day. And it helps us, it helps some stuff behind the scenes as well. Today's episode is brought to you by Tax Network. Locked On A's is here all year long for all your A's needs, and Tax Network USA is there for you all year long for all your tax needs. It's never too late to resolve your tax issues with the IRS. Don't wait. Reduce your tax debt and get help from a team of licensed tax professionals. Call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. Here are three things that we know for certain that are reliable: death, taxes, and the A's inability to score runs. And how do we know this? How do we know the A's have an inability to score runs? Because today in Anaheim, an event took place that to me was the absolute symbol of the Oakland Athletics year. But yeah, I'm not talking about everything going on, the awful Fishers, sell. I'm not talking about the travesty of the A's leaving Oakland but not having another stadium to go to, which you'd think would be an absolutely key detail to have ironed out before you leave a city, to the point that they have to share a minor league stadium with a minor league team, which is a whole other disgrace. Not only all that, all right, fine, but on the field, is there anything more 2024 Oakland A's than the A's actually scoring multiple runs on a hit and then having one of those runs be taken away because one person forgot to touch home plate, which, like finding another stadium, you would think would be high up there on the priorities. And then that same player was touched by another player while in play and therefore was called out. That's right, a two-run double, which at one point, from when I left Max Schuman's bat, I thought was a three-run homer. All right, a two-run double becomes a one-run double. And with that, what looked like was going to be a really big inning and a big rally turned into a single run because, the A's can't score more than one run an inning. And with that, it allowed the A's to keep the barn door open for the Angels. And, of course, the Angels eventually took advantage. Because the Angels are one of the worst teams in baseball, they swept the A's. But for those of you who missed it or were hiding your face, Max Schumann hit a deep drive to left field, which I thought when it left the bat was gone. It hit the wall. Great. Mr. Feel-Good Story, Armando Alvarez was on base. Kyle McCann was on base. Everything's happy. Everyone's in love at this point. All is glorious in the world, Schumann. And Alvarez scores, and McCann was running. There's really only one way to describe it. Like a newborn deer. He was running with the grace of a newborn deer. And as he waddled and stumbled and bumbled his way, his foot went over home plate, over it, but not touching it. And if one molecule of a shoelace grazed home plate, then Armando Alvarez touching him would have been just him hugging a guy at home plate. But because he was still basically in play, he was neither out nor safe. He was a Schrodinger's cat of base runners. He was neither at that point. And so he had to go back and touch it, and Armando Alvarez grabbed him and said, go back and touch home plate. And with that, he's out. Now, it seems so ticky-tack in a way because it wasn't like there was a play at the plate. It wasn't like this was, oh my God, he's sliding in and he dragged him across the plate like a scene from Hacksaw Ridge. No, it just, go back there and touch it. Okay, I touched it. But that is the rule. That is the rule. And I knew that in Little League. And I know Armando Alvarez has waited a long time to get to the majors. We'll talk about that later in the show. But it's like, oh, yeah, you touched it. So you're looking at the replay. And if he had touched home plate, then that would have been fine. But here's why you know he didn't touch home plate. The way McCann immediately went back, he was like, oh, crap, I forgot to touch home plate. And here we are. It would have been 2-0. There were 2 outs. Schumann would have been on first, and Cameron would be coming up. Not that Cameron is suddenly the second coming of Tony Gwynn, but at least the top of the order would be coming up. But no, it turns 1 run. And, of course, that 1 run has to last because it's welcome to A's baseball. They're not going to do anything more. And then we get to the 6th inning, and bases loaded, 2 outs, 2 strikes. And Mickey Moniak gets hit by a pitch with 2 strikes and 2 outs, and the A's still having the lead that would have gone into the 7th inning, albeit a 1-0 lead. But there you go. He gets hit by a pitch. Boom. Then someone named Zach Neto comes up and does something really neato. He doubles. So while they were 1 strike away from going to the 7th with a 1-0 lead, then they're 1 strike away from going to the 7th inning with it just being 1-1. Then it's 4-1. And the nanosecond those bases cleared. I don't care how horrible the Angels bullpen is, and believe me, it's horrible. But they turned into the 1990 Reds today. Sorry, A's fans, for bringing up the 1990 Reds, but let's face it, that bullpen was amazing. So what should have been a 1-0 lead going into the 7th, or at least a 2-0 lead going into the 7th, was 5-1 A's. Yes, the A's picked up a run in the 9th. I knew, you knew, we all knew for ice cream that the Angels were going to win this game the minute they put a 5 spot on. And, there you go. There you have it. The winning pitcher for the Angels was Matt Moore. Matt freaking Moore. I didn't realize he was still cashing a check. He's been around since the Cretaceous period. Remember when, like yesterday or the day before, it was announced that Dallas Keuchel was acquired, and I did a double take because I thought, wait, what year is it? Dallas Keuchel still playing? When I saw Matt Moore, who, was one of the top prospects of baseball in 2011, he won the game, shutting down the A's with his 1 inning of relief. He has an ERA over 5. 5. Do you know how you lower your ERA? You play the A's. Do you know why I know that? Because they can't even score when they score. And call me crazy, that's not a good thing. All right. Passion, drive, excellence. Things the A's do not have right now. But they are the things that help win a championship team. And they are the things that can help keep your number one ride or die alive. And that's why you need to go to eBay Motors. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're to speed, power, style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need and the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. I think the A's should be thinking about maybe making some personnel moves and maybe making a few changes in who that's running the place there, which makes me think about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Hey, are you struggling to close deals? Business-to-business selling is tougher than ever, and that's why I want to tell you about LinkedIn Sales Navigator. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is a sales intelligence platform that helps professionals effectively prospect and engage high-value customers, drive higher revenue, and increase sales performance. Sales Navigator helps you target the right buyers, surface key signals such as job changes or which accounts you should prioritize, and shows you hidden allies so you can find those buyers that are most likely to convert. Fueled by LinkedIn's 1 billion member platform, Sales Navigator gives you the most up-to-date first-party data, enabling you to unlock conversations with the people that matter. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/lockedon. That's linkedin.com/lockedon for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Go to linkedin.com/lockedon today, and then you will get started. That's LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Oops. Sorry, I had to do a little cough there. Hey, where do you go for all your sports news? What's your hub? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all of the fuss, or your pal Sully coughing. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channel app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Something got caught in there. Hey, we're doing a live stream today. Let's read the comments section right now. Let's see. TP Joseph, appreciated my newborn deer comment. Speaking of rubbing salt in the wounds, we Marlin fans are shaking our heads over JJ Bleday's emergence. Good for JJ. Keep on rocking and rolling. Well, it's incredible that our fan base is envious of the A's right now. Carlos Vargas says, why can't we hit when the bases are loaded? I don't know. They can only hit solo home runs, although I have a feeling that if someone got a bases clearing double, Carlos, all three players would miss home plate crossing it, and they would all fall like a big Laurel and Hardy sketch at the end there. So there you go. And Carlos Vargas, by the way, super optimistic. Let's hear it for Carlos Vargas's optimism, saying this series hurts the most. Thought we had this one. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I honestly don't know what to say. This is just this is a big pile of something I'm not supposed to say, where I want to keep me from getting an explicit rating. Hey, yesterday's game wasn't much better. Yesterday's game was awful. And again, similar situation. It was a very similar situation. The A's actually got a 2-run lead in the game. They're up 2-0 going to the fourth, and yet another 5-run outburst by an absolutely anemic Angels lineup. But, Mickey freaking Moniak, who got hit by a pitch to tie the game, hit a grand slam. The game was 2-1. I think there were 2 outs. Were there 2 outs? No, there were no outs. That's right. It's the opposite. Forgive me. These games are getting lost in my head. And Moniak hits a grand slam. And then, then Adele hits that double. And at that point, it was 6-3. It got to be 7-3. And then the A's rallied. And good old Armando Alvarez, Mr. Feelgood, I'll get to him towards the end. They put some runners on, but Alvarez gets picked off, and then he gets to third, and it's great. And then what happens? Your Blade, T.P. Joseph, you're talking about you love Blade, where he gets that double play last night. Boom. And then they can't do piddly-poo. They got hit in the ninth, but Langolier strikes out, and there you go. I mean, this was a series that they should have won. Yeah. Carlos Vargas reminds us all that it's been a nightmare it's been a bad nightmare since we were at 500. What's a good nightmare, buddy? I don't mean to be pedantic, but what is a good nightmare? Yeah, I was there. Remember, I was there for the May 4th game. They got to 500. I mean, look at how grotesque this has been since then. So we just have to take our lumps at this point. We gotta pan for flakes. We got to pan for good moments. Armando Alvarez is that's a feel-good story. The guy's 29. He's going to be 30 years old in a couple of weeks. He was born July 14th, 1994, which is scary for me because I graduated from college in 1994, and now we're talking about him as if he's an old man in the minors. But he had one of those kind of like long Crash Davis careers in the minor leagues. He was a product of Eastern Kentucky. He was at Florida International. Then he went to Eastern Kentucky. He played in. He was drafted in like the 16th round or the fifth. It was, I think it was either 15th or 16th round. It was the 17th round. It was even worse. The 17th round. When you're being picked in the 17th round, you're being picked to fill out single A rosters. Was drafted by the Yankees. He played in Charleston in the Sally League. He played in Staten Island in the New York Penn League. He played in the Tampa for the Florida League. He got all the way up to AAA, Scranton Wilkes-Barre, in 2019 and was doing well. He actually had a good AAA season. And then there was a year there were no minor leagues. That was the COVID year. And he wound up playing. He was in the Yankee farm system and didn't particularly have a very good year in AAA in 21 or 22. And he looked like, okay, he's just not going to make it. Now, he wound up going to the Giants, and he played in Sacramento last year and actually played pretty well, but he didn't get the call. Got cut. He got signed by the A's. And after all these years, after 700 games in the minor leagues and 8 seasons in the minor leagues, and 1 year playing for, in the one winter playing in the Mexican League, he made his major league debut and got a couple of hits. And that's a fun story. That's, to me, I find that cool. Not that the fact that he made it to the major leagues at all, I think is nice. After all those years of, trying to make it into the show and it didn't quite make it. Now he finally made it. And the first 2 games, he's made the most of it, except for grabbing McCann and pushing him back to home plate. But, at this point, if the A's are going to do anything, it's almost like they have to be a make-a-wish thing. If I were the A's, why not? I would go through every team's farm system, and they're going to make a bunch of trades. The A's are going to make a bunch of trades. Rooker and Duar, maybe Miller, maybe Sears, maybe anyone who's actually decent is probably going to be traded in the next couple of weeks, which means there's going to be some massive holes on the lineup. So maybe what you do is you go through every time you make a trade with a team, you try to get a legitimate prospect to it, and then you say, hey, who's been in your farm system the longest with never playing a single game in the majors? And bring them aboard. And, you may cut them the next day, but at least say, hey, the A's will be your make-a-wish. You could say, I play in the major leagues. Where? Do you know what's going to be really depressing next year? The A's playing in a minor league ballpark, sharing it with a minor league team. And there's going to be some schmuck who's been toiling in the minor leagues, who's going to finally make it to the majors and do so with the A's, and is going to play their first game in the majors in Sacramento in a minor league ballpark. And there'll be someone who only plays a game in the Sacramento ballpark, which is technically a major league stadium. But is it? And by the way, Katse, look at, I know it's not like you have the best team you can have, but why not lead off Andujar and bat Rooker second? Because I look at, if you're leading off Cameron, or if you don't like batting average, he's batting 158. But what his OPS is 536. Why don't you have your top two hitters having the most at bats? But so you got to have speed at the top and move them over. No, that only counts in the first inning. This team doesn't have Ricky Henderson, Carney Lansford, Dave Henderson, Canseco, McGuire, Dave Parker, and Terry Steinbach and Tony Phillips. God, they don't even have Mike Cameron. They have Daz Cameron. They don't have Brian McCann. They have Kyle McCann. They don't have Phil Nevin. They have whatever our Nevin is. That means Andujar. It's like Andujar and Rooker are the two best hitters. Give them the most at bats. Is that asking too much? Am I asking too much? Well, what I wanted was the A's not to be swept by the freaking Angels. So, yeah, maybe I'm asking too much. All right, let's talk about let's talk about our friends over at Tax Network. So look at, we here at Locked On A's, we pride ourselves to give you the latest news for your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, or all this nonsense in Sacramento, and not just the government. By the way, great mayor we have in Oakland. But you know what else is year-round? Collection seasons. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let licensed professionals and tax expert at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. I've worked for a whole bunch of media companies over the years, and sometimes they pay you with a personal check, and they almost never take the taxes out. If I didn't have people like the good folks at Tax Network USA fighting for me, I would be absolutely leveled come April 15th with all of the money I would owe. With over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or finally hit that parlay this season, and you need help filing your taxes correctly, here's what you got to do. You got to go make the call at 1. Are you going to write this down? Are you going to remember it? You're not going to remember it. So you got to call 1-800 right down here on my lower third, 1-800-549-1000, or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. See the link in the episode below for help, and go to taxnetwork.com/link, taxnetwork.com/lockedon for every need you have for taxes. Let's talk about our friends over at Prize Picks. So let me tell you something. If you're unfamiliar with Prize Picks is the best way to get in on the fun and the excitement of daily fantasy sports. It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. All you do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, watch the winnings roll in, and get on the daily action with your friends and be part of the Prize Picks community today. Now, the NBA finals are over, but hoops action doesn't stop on Prize Picks. You got women's basketball. It's still heating up. You got stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese are going to make names for themselves alongside Breanna Stewart, and you can win up to 100 times your cash by watching them play ball. Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. Do you know what? It really is that easy. Check out Prize Picks. Hey, this is a reminder that Locked On has created the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's available on the Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channel app. Locked On Sports Day is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Visit Locked On Sports Day. Find it available on YouTube and on the free Fire TV channel app. All right. Well, the A's are going to be heading off to Arizona, and we're going to see what happens there. Because I mean, Arizona's a strange team. I don't know if you remember this. They went to the World Series last year. They did so with a negative run differential, which is still, to me, absolutely bizarre. The last time that happened, you had a World Series team with a negative run differential in the World Series. Well, that would have been the Minnesota Twins, who won one of the strangest World Series in the history of baseball. So we're going to see what happens. Let's see. Movies by Abdul Jabbar says, I was impressed by the Angels when they swept the Giants. Thanks. Baseball's greatest strength is point blank that the greatest team in the world is the greatest team in the world. In other words, MLB rule changes are a disaster. Okay, that read like those little magnets you have on the refrigerator that were rearranged in a random order. JR writes, with Geloff sucking this year, tell us how you really think. There's absolutely no room for a rookie to slump like he has. Sadly, he's lost the ability to see the ball again. The A's have been unwatchable lately. So I guess that's what I'm doing. I am doing a civil service. I will watch the A's so you don't have to. Well, but watch them. Even a day like today, because they're not going to be here next year, and we're going to miss them. But you don't have to miss me. The A's are off tomorrow, so they're not going to lose tomorrow. So follow us at Locked On A's on Twitter, or whatever the hell it's called now, and on Instagram. I am your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. The Angels swept the A's. That's hard to imagine, but they did. This has been Locked On A's for the 26th day of June, 2024. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.